What is going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, back with another Outriders worldslayer video to bring to you, and today I am going to hold my hands up and admit I was wrong about the trigger twitch set. In the right build it is insanely strong and deletes groups and bosses in a single button press. But before we go any further, make sure you have dropped a like and a subscribe on the video, it really does help the channel out. And did you know only 19% of you watching are currently subbed to the channel? It's completely free to do, keep you up to date with all the Outriders content coming for the channel, which we both know you want to do. Without further ado though, let's get right into it. Alright, so the trigger twitch set has gone through a small journey itself, but yet to really hit the market as a strong build for most classes from what I can tell. Everyone still loves the new strength of AP builds for all classes and fell back into old habits with Firepower Borealis, or Firepower Terminal Velocity, or even the statue sets offering damage increases on their set bonuses, and it's easy to see why people instantly gravitate towards them. Why would you choose a set bonus that doesn't offer any increase to damage itself? Why would you choose that over any of the more meta kind of armor sets? And I thought this for a long time too, until I came across this and messed about with the strength that Firepower Devastator can bring to the table. We'll cover the trigger twitch set bonus and how it works in a little while, but let's start with looking at our offense and cover the weapon of choice first. So we've gone into the inventory. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the pistol. So first up is our choice between pistols and going dual pistols or a revolver. Both have their strengths, like revolvers have higher base damage and crit multipliers, but dual pistols are better at sustained fire and not worrying about missing shots. Both do the job admirably, but will depend on your skill, as revolvers will have a higher ceiling than dual pistols. But for this build though, we're going to be going with the dualies for help mobbing and bossing. So ideally the best would be a purple pistol set to the burst variant. This offers the fastest fire rate and balanced stats of damage, crit multiplier and clip size. You can go for the higher cal variant if you want to manually press every pull of the trigger for higher damage, so if you prefer that, feel free, but for fast stacking of the set bonus and crazed gunman, burst is going to be the best bet. So on this we will roll with Dark Sacrifice for extra pistol damage, which being a firepower build we want to focus on, and Anomaly Enhancement so to increase our firepower for the trigger twitch set bonus. The more firepower, the better it's going to be. The last mod is Resistance Breaker, which offers nothing to us, so consider these a non-apocalypse set of pistols, and any other helpful mods would be a bonus. Ideally you also want to be able to get pistols that roll with Armor Pierce and close range damage, but unfortunately mine only have the Armor Pierce, which is still the main stat to be able to grab, but keep your eyes peeled for that unicorn. Other mods of use here would be Death Renome and Fortress, both offering substantial damage boosts. Moving from there though, over to our armor pieces, we have to pick up the 3 pieces of the trigger twitch for the powerful set bonus. These come only on the head, the chest and the legs, so all 3 are going to be in this build. So let's have a look as to why this bonus is so strong. So having it available means after landing 50% of our clip in our pistols loads a special attack into our melee ability, which scales damage based on our firepower and is split between up to 5 enemies in a 15-meter radius. While you spin around like the offspring of a figure skater and a Beyblade, you get a 50% damage mitigation, so you shouldn't die mid-animation. As a note, this 50% doesn't go off your standard mag size, so any increases to mag size will increase the amount of crits needed to be able to get this active. So start with a 24 mag size, you will need 12 crits. If you do move to 36, like in the case of this build, you're now going to be at 18, and etc, and so on. If you reload at any point, you will lose any progress to this as well, so keep that in mind when you go out in the firefights. Anyways, let's start with the head armor, and this rolls with bonus firepower, cooldown reduction and close range damage, all perfect rolls for what we're trying to do. 2 of the 3 tier 3 mods for the trigger twitch are kind of pointless for Devastators, as we can mitigate what they offer through our Pax Tree. As such, we've replaced the top mod of the helmet for Anomaly Echo. This gives us a double boost, as we are using Anomaly Enhancement on our gun, so we get a firepower boost and 40% of the anomaly increase as more firepower, which is just great stuff. Next we have the Sidearm Specialist for a 12% boost for our pistol damage, and it's perfect for us going pure pistols as our weapon of choice. Lastly, we did roll with Dead Clock, and while this is a decent mod, it's not the best for this build due to how quick most of our cooldowns are, so while it's not bad, it's just not the best in slot, but we will be covering other mods alternatives at the end of the video. Next up we have our chest armor for the coats, and this comes with an insane tier 3 mod of Crazed Gunman, which gives us stacks of 10% increased pistol critical damage every time we land a critical shot, and it should stack up to 5 times as long as we don't miss or reload. I say it should do though, as I have heard in the community this goes up to 10 stacks for intense critical damage, so this is a must have in the build, and Devastators can take advantage of this so much. Next up we have Primal Chain Gun, allowing us to increase our weapon damage by 20% per enemy hit by Boulder Dash, and stacks up to 5 times. Up to 100% weapon damage on a skill we use for our packs as standard is a no-brainer here, and allows us to be able to hit some daft numbers on our pistol shots, which makes mobbing and bossing extremely easy. Lastly we have Stare to the Barrel, which is a must-have due to the increase of our firepower by 45.9k per enemy that's in close range, which we pretty much always will be. The best part of this is because having that increased firepower not only increases our pistol damage, it will also go into the Trigger Twitch bonus set, so therefore having that is just going to be a twofold, and it's just an increase in DPS all across the board. Lastly for the set we have the Trousers, and once again we take off the tier 3 mod, as hitting crits to reload our weapon is not what we want to do with this build, even more so when the Devastator can benefit from the lower mag size for more weapon damage. Instead we put on Power of the Stones for a huge 30% weapon damage boost for 8 seconds on using Tremor. This will also apply to your teammates as well, so if you do play with friends you'll be helping them out as well as yourself for some DPS. Next up we have a Plate Piercer for a huge increase to crit damage, as our Armour Pierce hits 90% as standard, allowing a 45% increase to all crit damage, and can go higher depending on how your skills land. It's a must-have in this build, especially with all the focus on crit shots and how easy it is to do, which we will be covering very shortly. Lastly, we rolled with Stronghold, giving us and our teammates in range a 20% resistance and armor bump just for using Tremor. It helps for survival and has come in clutch sometimes if a leap does go wrong and puts you in a bad spot. While it's not the best in slot, it's still decent nonetheless. So from here now we need 2 purple armor pieces to be able to finish off the build. So with the gloves we stack up on Personal Space for increased close range damage, Captain Hunter for extra elite damage on our shots and also on our set bonus, so pretty much going to be necessary, and lastly Kingslayer for a huge firepower boost when critting elites. All of this factors into our lethality and should be kept on the build where possible, but unfortunately my gloves did roll with anomaly power and no close range damage, so I am looking to be able to get that replaced, but unfortunately with the anomaly enhancement on our gun we still get a firepower boost, just with a smaller one. And then lastly we get the boots, which are going to have the perfect attributes right here, which is our firepower, close range and long range damage. As for the mods, Give Me More is not a great mod and would be ideal to be able to get replaced with the mod selection at the end of the video. Damage Absorber is a godsend, as this class is kind of squishy at times as opposed to other firepower builds that Devastator does utilise, where like things like Golem and Deathproof with its armor stacking, so this boost is more than welcome. And lastly we do get Sharp Eye for large firepower increases on crits while aiming down sight, so not only does this increase the amount of our damage of our pistols, it also goes straight back into the set bonus as well, so that's pretty much an instant lock. From there we do have the skills, and we do use 2 kinetic skills for our class tree and our Pax Tree to maximise mobility and effectiveness for weapon damage. Boulder Dash is there for our Primal Chain Gun, allows us to be able to charge through enemies with increased armor for the animation, whereas our Leap is our fast way to be able to zip around the battlefield and to always be in close range. Tremor is our Panic Heal, and it also allows us to be able to have an increased DPS phase when we use Power of the Stone, so it's best to use after a dash or a leap for that big crit damage. Moving from there, we go into the class tree. Now the class tree is going to be primarily top tree, and I will be discussing a few different options for you to be able to go, so if you do find that this isn't the best route for yourself, do not worry, I do have a few different options for you. So the best way that I've gone for is to be able to go through all the way here and grabbing as many brawler increases as well as havoc to be able to increase the amount of weapon damage that we will be doing. You also want to be able to go through as many armor breakers as possible, because this armor piecing allows us to be able to do more damage through enemies as standard, but also then feature straight back into our critical hit damage through the things of like Plate Piercer. The Capstone, being Altered Charge, allows us to be able to increase our weapon damage by 70% for 10 seconds every time we use our Gravity Leap or we use our Boulder Dash, which is a huge increase, so you should always be going for this if you do go for a firepower build. And then the other one of massive importance is going to be Champion, which while using any skill increases our weapon damage by 45% for 10 seconds. Now the reason why I went down here to be able to go down here is to be able to grab some health regen to be able to increase the weapon damage even further. So Vim and Vigor increases our weapon damage by 10% for each unlocked anomaly in Veined class node, and as you can see we have picked up 2, so that is a flat 20% increase to our weapon damage just from being able to have a little bit of health regen. You can combine this with a mod called the Cycle, which is a tier 2 mod, which will give you a further 10% increase, so that is an option to be able to put into your armor slots. This also allows us to be able to pick up some cooldown reduction for the two main skills that we will be using, and Into the Fray allows us to be able to have some damage mitigation by 15% for 10 seconds after every single time we use one of our kinetic skills. Now in terms of variants on this build that you can go for, what you can do is be able to take a few of these points away and it will allow you to be able to go further down the tree. What you can do is if you do go for a pure crit variant, you can pick up something like Strong Arm of the Anomaly, increasing your resistance pierce by 15% for every single enemy that's hit for 10 seconds. This will allow you to be able to use things like Achilles Heel or Resistance Piercer to be able to benefit from having a 15% increase to your crit damage every single enemy that you hit, because they both do 50%, but having both of them on means that you're getting a 100% crit bonus based on your resistance pierce. It will also allow you to be able to go a little bit further down the tree to be able to pick up Paladin, and this will allow you to be able to increase your anomaly power by 45%, which if you are using a gun like a Noah with anomaly enhancement on it, allows you to be able to boost up your anomaly power even further, which in turn then boosts up your firepower. Now, because this build is a little bit on the squishy side, what you can do is go for an armor set instead, and that allows you to be able to go down this middle tree here to be able to grab heirloom armor. So every single time you kill an enemy in close range, that will give you 20% of their armor for 10 seconds, and you can potentially go further down to be able to go to stone circle and also go through the mob, increasing your armor even further for every single enemy that's in close range, because you will always be in close range. And stone circle will allow you to be able to benefit from other mods that allow you to be able to do things with close range damage, and also things like stare into the barrel, which increases your firepower based on enemies in close range. It allows you to be able to extend that distance a little bit further. Alright, so for our Pax choices, we have gone pure top, as this gives us the most DPS increase out of all the options to be able to use. Grabbing Hunting Season for 30% weapon damage and a 50% mag size increase is a great start. Next we grab Arbiters for the leech for healing, but you can choose to go damage mitigation instead if that's more your choice, but either way it allows us to be able to proceed to the next node for Finishing Touch. And what this does is give us an increase of weapon damage as we go through our bullets, and on weapon kills we'll replenish 35% of our magazine, allowing easier access to the set bonus in case we miss a few shots. Armor Division increases our armor pierce by 20%, allowing more damage to go through from our shots, but also feeds into Plate Piercer for another 10% increase to our crit damage. It also reduces our kinetic skills cooldown by 50% of our armor pierce, which when we have 90% will be a nice 45% cooldown reduction, so snappy skill cooldowns. Lastly, against devastating odds is where our crits really come to play, as it provides 2 boosts to us depending on how many enemies you hit with your skills. 3 or more being hit by a single dash or leap will give us 30% more armor pierce, allowing us to be able to get to 120% total pierce, which 20% is useless in regular damage, and that equates to 15% increase crit damage and a further 15% cooldown reduction through Armor Division. But the real winner for us is hitting less than 3 enemies, means we get full on crits for 4 seconds. Our whole build is built around crit damage, so having full crits on all shots for 4 seconds is just plain daft, and allows us to be able to stack up the set bonus easily while hitting for huge damage in the process. Best yet, because we use Boulder Dash as a skill and it doesn't need a target to activate, we can use this in our downtime to hit 0 enemies, and this will proc the crit's ability. If you see a horde bearing you down, proc your dash, early cancel it to hit none of them, and then fire away for 4 seconds into the crowd for mass damage. This is crazy. And then lastly we have the Ascension Points to consider, and you probably guessed where we're heading with this. First 30 points of this build will always be dedicated to armor pierce, close range damage and weapon damage. These maximise the damage potential of your guns and allow you to hit those big numbers quickly. If you are lucky enough to have more points than me though, anomaly damage, damage to elite and crit damage will also be your best bet. Due to the lack of tankiness that's in this build, going for HP and armor is going to be acceptable, but whatever you do, do not go for mag size. This will affect how many shots are needed to be able to trigger the set bonus, and it's just plain not worth it. The 50% in the Pax Tree was more than enough to have a decent mag size, so more is going to be a detriment when it comes to this case. Now with all that said and done, let's cover some alternative mods you can fit in to be able to min-max this build. Now remember, firepower is king in this build, and as we rock anomaly enhancement, it increases any increases to our anomaly power will filter straight into that. Arms and anomaly is going to be a great place to start for that, as it's a huge boost for landing crits, which we do all the time. Same can be said for danger close, as we will always be in close range, so having a boost per enemy close to us by 6% for each is pretty big and requires little interaction on our part. Alternatively, you can build this into a pure crit DPS machine by using things like no resistance against the fortified and combine it with Achilles Heel and Resistance Piercer. Both of these do the same job and bumping your crit damage higher as standard. If you do use the same skill tree, the cycle will also give you a flat 10% increase boost to your weapon damage, just from having 2% health regen, but it's not the best option, but it is still an option nonetheless. And lastly, having any damage multipliers on status are going to be great, so if you can get a pistol to be able to roll with them. Things like Ultimate Freeze on Toxic or Bleed would allow you to be able to use Shatter, Euthanizer, and also Tainted Blood to work wonders. And that's it on the video. Like I said from the start, I was clearly wrong on this set about being poor to begin with, but Devastator has changed my mind on that. It's my favourite firepower build right now, even if its survivability does suffer from not having golem or armor stacks. Let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on this, and if you've been able to one trigger twitch activation kill the end Arbiter. That's definitely what I'm being able to push for, and I feel like I can get it if I can get some really nice armor pieces. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. Massive thanks to the Babylonian family as always for their continued support. Their names appear at the end of every single video of ours. And if you're interested in supporting us too, that join button is found right next to the subscribe button. And I guess that just leaves me to say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on that next video.